if I look at the fixed assets, firstly, I look and I see they give me information for 2 years. Now, when they do that, I know that the old year is the opening balance and the new year is the closing balance. Okay, this pen isn't working. Okay, so now let's go look. Do they give me fixed assets? And if I go down here, I see they give me equipment and vehicles. So, equipment is 160, 180, vehicles and accumulated. I'm not going to write it in. I'm first going to read what does the information say, because maybe some transactions weren't recorded. Okay, so let's quickly look. I see on the 2nd, June 23, an old machine which originally costed 22, was taken by Radebe for own use at a redeemed value of 5,000, meaning that's going to be drawings, ne? This resulted in the machine being disposed of at a loss. The total accumulated depreciation from date of purchase to date of sale, they already gave me. Can you see that? And new equipment was bought. Now, the new equipment was bought means I'm going to have to balance on that. Okay, so the asset disposal, what is the carry value? It's a machine. They say the cost was 22. The accumulated to debt, 7,750. So what's my carry value?
250.
Right, so 2 is done. Can you see they didn't say anything about this not being recorded? Okay. Then they say a new vehicle was purchased for 42,000. Can you also see they don't say anything about it not being recorded? What?
So what does the new equipment was bought and credited on the same day? What does that mean?
So it means that we also have an addition for equipment, but they didn't give me the amount. So I'm going to take the opening, what I sold, and the closing to calculate. I'm going to balance on what I bought. That's what it means. Okay. So, let's go look. A new vehicle was bought. Vehicles and equipment are depreciated on the cost price method. And that's the only information I have. So I can assume everything was recorded, so I can use this opening and closing balances. So equipment had an opening of 160 and a closing of 180. And accumulated of 64. So 160 less 64 gives me 96. Okay. Now, what will the addition be? So the addition, what I'm going to do is if I draw a T account, or if I do it just as a line calculation. A T account makes more sense to me. So what I'm going to do with vehicles, equipment, I have an opening and a closing, an asset disposal, and what I buy. Ne? So they tell me my opening is 160, my closing is 180. So what's my asset disposal again? They say to me the cost price of the asset disposal was 22. So what did I buy? Can you see now I can just balance on it? Because that closing becomes the opening for next year. But I don't need that I need to know everything on top of the totals. Nee. Because now I know those two sides need to be the same. That's a principle you've done since grade 8. So 22 plus 180 gives me 202. So I know this side is also 202. So 202 less 160 gives me 42. You guys sharp. And that 42 will be my addition. So it's the same as the vehicles. Now I need to calculate the depreciation. When I do depreciation, I want the sold, the new, and the old. They are all on cost price. So the sold one is 22,000. They say my depreciation is 20%. They also say that I bought this thing, I sold it on 30 June. But now what do I see? My financial year also ends 30 June. So can you see that this sold one, this sold one I had for 12 months. The new one I bought on the same day, am I right? So the new one of 42,000 I had 0 months. Okay? The old one, if I go look at the start of 160, less 22, which is 138, I also had 12 months. So now if I look at this, can you see that those two, the sold and the old, are both at 12 months? So I can make it one calculation. I don't have to separate the calculations. So I can use the 160. 22 plus 138 gives me 160. 20%, 32,000. Everybody sharp. You guys get it? Okay, so that 32,000 I'm going to put in here. Okay, and now I block on top. 42 less 14 less 32 is going to give me a negative of 4250. So 96 less 4250 gives me 91750 less 180 gives me
88250.
Everybody happy with that? You guys need to realize that paper 2 doesn't have a lot of topics. The only topics for paper 2 at this stage is recons and fixed assets. So you can know that this is going to be very big in paper 2. Note 3, very big in paper 2, and also remember your T accounts, very big in paper 2. You're going to have to go look at your T accounts. Okay. Let's go on. Vehicles. So vehicles had an opening of 158, a closing of 200, which I see is true, 158 plus 42 gives me 200. It's got an accumulated of, they don't tell me. Can you see that? Am I right if I say they didn't give me accumulated? Ah, there's a mistake. Can you see that there's two equipments? So meaning that one, they actually meant vehicles, so just fix it. Can you see my logic? My logic says equipment, accumulated equipment. Vehicles, accumulated on vehicles. Okay. So this is 104. So this gives me 54. Okay. Now, I know my depreciation is the new and the old. So the new one is 42,000. 20%. How many months? They say 31st March. So I have it April, May, June. 3 months. How much does that give me? The old one is the 158. 158, 20% gives me is the 1050 wrong? Okay, what is it? 2,100. Okay, what is this 158? 31,600. And because it's on cost, I need to quickly just check, and I see, yeah, it's still smaller than the carry value, so I can use it. So now I'm literally going to add the 2,1 and the 3,1,600, and that gives me what? And block and top gives me 54 plus 8,300 gives me
6,4,300.
Less 200 gives me
1,37,700.
And now I just need to do the totals. There's no land and buildings, ne? So let's do the totals. Current accounts. So current accounts, I need to write the two guys' names here. So it's going to be Nel and Radebe. So let's see what they say. So firstly, I have to remember, if I look here, that the drawings of who bought the machine, Radebe. So the drawings of Radebe, I need to add 5,000, ne? Okay. So let's start. Firstly, they say both partners made a once-off adjustment to their capital accounts, which means it's going to have an influence on my interest, right? So let's do this. Interest on capital is 12% per year. They already give you now as 32,400. So you only need to calculate Radebe. So if I calculate Radebe, I see Radebe had capital 300. Now can you see, they tell you here it's a once-off adjustment, but they don't tell you with how much, right? Now if I look at Radebe, can you see that he took back capital? This isn't drawings. This is him. Oh, okay. But in any case, let me tell you about now. This isn't drawings, ne? This is literally him making his capital contribution less. And if you look now, what would you say is the reason why did he do it? Look. I'm talking now about both. Why did Nel make his capital contribution less? Maybe the partners decided that they want to equalize their capital contributions. In other words, they want to make their capital contributions equal. Because can you see, Radebe made his more with 40. So now both of them are on 240. You see? So that might be the reasoning. Okay. So now let's see. So I'm going to work for Radebe on 200 and 240. 200 and 240. Both is at 12%. The 200, when did they do that? In January. So can you see it's 6 months? July, August, September, October, November, December. 6 months. 6 months.
Sorry for disturbance. Come to the.
Okay. So, what's the 200? Is it 600?
12,000.
12,000. This one?
14,400.
Okay. So I can see this is adding up 26,400. You can also go by doing 200 for the whole year and 40 for 6 months. You'll get the same. Okay. So now 26,400 goes to Radebe. So this adds up. Then they say both partners are entitled to an annual salary as well as a 13th check each year. Okay, that I can tell you interpretations are different and it's not an issue. You can either say, I personally think a 13th check is part of the salary. It's not a bonus because it doesn't depend on anything. Usually a bonus is connected to Christmas or it's connected to a certain target reached or performance. Okay, but a 13th check is written in your contract. You get it every year, no matter what. Okay, so the 13th check is part of your salary according to me.
Ma'am,
Yes.
can I ask you a question? Couldn't you say that?
So what I'm saying to you is most probably when I'm marking it, I will look at it as a salary or a bonus. My only problem is here, where they say they give me a whole year's salary. Because usually your bonus is not 100%. So if I get 100 Rand every month, my bonus might be only 90 Rand. You only get a percentage. So, but in this case, I will take both as right. If you took it as a bonus, or as if you took it as a salary. So now, in other words, you can either say 12 times 13, né? And that gives me what?
1.6.
Okay. Or you could have said 12 times 12, which would be 144, and 12. I will mark both as correct. Okay. Then Radebe, 134. Or you could have said 134 divided 12 times 12. How much is it? How much did you get the bonus? You must did it like that.
The bonus was 10,308.
And then his salary?
123,692.
So what we did is you divided that by 13 to see how much is one check. Okay. So in my case, I will say there's no bonuses. Okay. So you can do this option where you show the 13th check as a bonus, or you can do this one where the 13th check is part of your salary. Okay. So this totals up as, okay. So now, downstairs, let's total. Everybody still with me? So now my net profit as per income statement. Do they give me the net profit anywhere? They gave it to me as 4,300. 4,300 less 348,800 gives me
83,500.
and that 83,500 I now need to distribute, and they say we do it according 2 to 3. Now can you see what they say? They say Radebe Nel 2 3. So Radebe 2, Nel 3. Can you see it's the same order? Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to take that 83500. If it's 2 to 3, it means there's 5 pieces in total. So it's going to be 2 over 5. And it's going to be 3 over 5. And what does that give me for Radebe? Just remember Radebe is the 2, ne? 33400. And now
5100. 50.
okay. So I add now you guys shop if I go on like this. I just want to fold this. Okay. So Nell's drawings is 186. Radebe, remember to add the 5, it's 184. So it totals 3. Okay, so this gives me
62.
okay, now
That is 52. And then Radebe is 9.
okay, now their capital of their currents. If I look at the current, they don't give me the closing, they give me the opening. Remember, debit is negative, ne? So now is 8,000 positive. Radebe is 24 negative. So it's going to be a negative of how much?
14,200.
Okay. If I add it, it's going to be a negative 16. That gives me
36,300.
any questions?